Welcome to another Hope, Power, and Healthcare with Chris Hemphill and
Melissa Reilly.
oh my goodness, I am so excited to connect again for another week. How has your week been?
Oh, Chris, I love when you ask me about my week. I have been living the camp mom life, so I'm sure many parents out there can resonate with this. But basically, I leave my work 3 to 4 times a day to hopefully pick up a kid. I did miss one last week, not ideal. They had to sit there, my poor child, and then I came back to get them. I was just very distracted helping the other child. So I feel like this work life integration continues to be a challenge. And then on the work front, I have been deep in contracts this week. So I've been doing MSAs and statements of work, and there is just a whole world of fun that I have with MSAs and SOWs. And after doing over 300, probably rounding into 350 initiatives now, like I bet I've forgotten more about MSAs and SOWs than some people even know.
Can we hear a little bit about MSAs and SOWs? I know that the innovation stuff is like that big picture wow factor, but like this is the nitty gritty stuff that makes it happen and puts stuff in motion, right?
Yeah, well, I want to hear about your week too, but I'll give you like just a couple little sound bites, right? So the master service agreements and the statements of work are what usually, if you show up as a vendor for a health plan, you have to work on and negotiate, right? And it really is like the startup or the innovator is like the David, and the health plan is that Goliath. And so oftentimes when you think you're going in to negotiate, there is like so many things you have to consider. And there's certain provisions you can update easily and other provisions you can't. And you don't know it because it's like a whole different language. And so savvy founders are getting people with experience negotiating MSAs and SOWs either through their legal team or through their advisor. And that helps a process that can sometimes take over 365 days move faster.
Gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, people who tuned in to our last episode where we covered Joseph Liu's 10 laws of health tech sales, they better listen to that again and learn that and build in those protections and make sure they're doing that part right, sounds like.
Yeah, totally. I think we could even have an 11th rule, which is bring a friend when you're negotiating your MSA and SOW.
Actually, Melissa, let's make a podcast episode where we are that friend, because I was thinking Joseph published his. What about his was 10 laws of selling into healthcare providers. What about the ones for selling into health plans? Maybe that's the Melissa list.
Yeah, the stealth could definitely do that. It's a brilliant idea, Chris. You are just on fire today. How was your week?
New content alert, y'all. Yeah, my week was it's so fabulous and fabulous and challenging at the same time. So onboarding.
Oh, my little health plan person. Have you fully embraced your new identity?
You know what? You asked about we're onboarding Scan Health Plan as a client, and thank you for that introduction. You said, so you're a health plan person now, and it takes me a long time to identify as any type of person, honestly. Like even when I started running, I didn't call myself a runner until I had, and this is gatekeeping myself, but I didn't call myself a runner until I'd run a marathon. So yeah, it's a weird, like, don't gatekeep yourself. Our first episode, that title, that was me talking to myself. Honestly, I need to stop doing that. But I've thought about like what it means to work at a mission-driven nonprofit Scan focusing on a Medicare Advantage population and things like that. And that that's a health plan. It's different than a lot of other systems. So I can validly say, after 2 weeks, after getting to know the culture there, talking to my coworkers and understanding that you can talk about mission-driven oriented things, health equity is part of their business model and everything like that, I'm a Scan person. I will definitely say that I'm a Scan person.
I love it for you. I love it for you. Okay, so a lot of our fam struggles with identity, in the sense of their work identity, and some are happy and some are not. And so, Chris, you came in some ways out of academia and then went to a startup like a Woebot and, some other stops in between. But like, what would you say are maybe the three main differences between health plan people and or scan people, and more of the startup culture? What have been some of your challenges as you flip identities, change identities?
So identity goes deep. Oh, I got to tell you, I'm not actually an academic.
Okay.
I'm affiliated with NYU McSilver Institute for Poverty Policy and Research, but that came from industry work. Just wanted to say that because I'm proud of the affiliation, but that was kind of an honor from what they saw in industry.
Meaning you're not an academic, meaning since you don't officially work there, you don't write papers, or how would you define academic?
I tend to I would say working for an academic institution directly, whereas mine is more industry, and then with the fellowship with NYU McSilver, it's consulting and informing. And it's kind of informing industry perspectives and informing research perspectives and things like that. But I don't know. Maybe I should. Like I said, I have a hard time labeling myself. So maybe I should embrace a little bit of, because I mean, a bunch of academics and things like that. And if you're throwing that category at me, maybe I'll ask. I'll ask around and say, hey, should I be calling myself that? Or
just think to yourself, should I call myself this? Do I identify with the personas of academics, or do I feel like I'm more of a strategic advisor? If so, that's great. I just want to know. I like when you tell me things like this because I like to know how to refer to you.
Yeah. Well, Chris Hemphill, and you say academic, I will just be very pleased that you think I'm smart. Or
isn't that just the goal?
Yes. But that DNA, I'm going to talk for anybody that struggles with identity, as much as I'm avoiding, I have a hard time with labels and everything like that. The mission it's great to have an internal mission that's outside of the company that you work for. One of the articles that we're going to talk about a little bit later, it's called Why Woebot Shut Down. It came from Stat News by a really talented reporter, Mario Aguilar. And let me think about that mission that Woebot instilled in me, which was enabling radical access to care, particularly in the mental health domain. Even though I no longer work for that company, that mission lives on really hardcore. I learned about what they were doing, learned about those perspectives, and rather than tying my mission and tying my identity to the company itself, it became, okay, so I really believe in this goal. What are the actions that we can take within the company and outside of the company to enable that radical access? One of those is this podcast. One of those is focusing on enabling and just inspiring healthcare innovators and tech people to stay the fight, stay the course, and things like that. So I really believe in, you have your internal mission, then you go and work with people that really identify with that, and that's what's helped me with SCAN has those same goals, so it's mission aligned. And then when we talk about you've got your startup people, you've got your health plan people, and everything like that, the biggest thing that I have in that I think about that with that is just change management. I've been in a situation where I introduced way too much change too fast in an organization, and they wanted to slit my throat.
I had that too. I felt that way too. And I think it also goes to how you were set up in that, Chris. I want you to finish your thought as well, but being in a role previously where I thought my job was to introduce the change and bring the change, I was doing all the right things, according to my manager, who kind of wanted that change to be driven. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I necessarily, when we think about that bathtub of change curve, it's one of my favorite analogies. Have you heard this one, Chris?
No, let's bring it.
Okay, so there's this chasm, right? So think about the loop inside a bathtub, right? So you've got one set of people on one side, and those are the people that are living for the change. This is the definition of Melissa Reilly, right? I love change. I love something new. I love to drive new things. If someone, asks for a volunteer, I'm usually that first one raising my hand to like jump in both feet. Who cares? We'll figure it out. Right. Mm-hmm. Those are like the people on the top of that daisy chain of that bathtub. The second step is the people that help enable a lot of that change. Right. And then there's the people kind of in the bathtub at the bottom. They want to, and I actually think there's probably like a daisy chain of change is not the right name for this. We will, after this episode, find out, and post a meme on this or something like that. Deep in the bathtub are the people that could go either way. If they get pulled the right way, they're embracing that change. As you come up the curve, you've got the change resistant people. And then at the very top of that other bathtub are the people that will never change come hell or high water, right? Mm-hmm. And so someone actually explained this to me. They're like, Melissa, oftentimes you are at that top of that daisy chain. You are yanking so hard. You don't care if the people are falling in that bathtub and drowning, right? And what I've learned through that experiment perhaps, is that both. I do so well with like sometimes translators, like the people that sit along the curve, right? I can change the people on that chain who can go and reach people, because there's some people that just don't love a Melissa Reilly. They want no part about that, but they're more willing to be leaning in from the people that are, closer on the chain to them. So when I can influence the influencer, they can sometimes get to those change resistant folks, kind of like a vaccine.
Smart. Okay. Yeah, that's a good strategy. That's a good clip. For sure. And that makes me reflect back to that time where I kind of bungled up a change management initiative. This is 2018. I've learned since then, y'all. But a great reflection there.
Yeah. And then, so Chris, like, when we think about that bathtub, that daisy chain, right? Where are you, right? Like if startup person is on one part of the bathtub and we've got on the other end of the bathtub, you've got your health plan people, like where do you fall?
I'm going to tell you, a lot of health plan people there, some of the people that I work with, like as far as high fat, really fast change cultures and things like that, they fit right in. So there are people who, and honestly, on the flip side, a lot of startups can be mired. Like I would call it a finish up at that point, but they can be mired in a bunch of like restrictions and bureaucracy and things like that. So it's all about that person. It's what you're bringing to the table. And I really do see a culture that has been focused on bringing in those people that are focused on the change. Where I stand in that, I'm 2 weeks in. Just still learning.
You're not identifying.
No, I'm trying to, but I'm being humble. I'm being humble in like, hey, here's some of the problems and things like that. And I'll let it slip what my actual thoughts. Like I'll be thinking about, hey, this process. Like there's different types of architecture that I'm used to that we might want to experiment with. But like the technology and all that stuff, I kind of put that aside and learn about what the organization is trying to do. Being humble with it right now, but looking forward to it accelerating and driving some change specifically where it's needed.
Yeah, I mean, just finishing up with the analogy, I would say that like inside both the startup and the health plan, you have these curves, right? And so if you say like the identity of a startup is really, pure innovation, and then the identity of a health plan is, really more of that risk management and that stability. That's a gross overgeneralization. Mm-hmm. There is definitely innovation that happens in both places, and there's risk mitigation that definitely happens at a startup. I think the challenge is sometimes the languages don't translate across the two, and even going back to like, where did we spend our time this week? Those contracts are often the translation documents between the two entities. And so it can be very challenging when you have identity over here and identity over here to kind of meet in the middle. And so you need that a strategic advisor, you need those people along the daisy chain that really can help. And so I just think in all that we speak about today, we're going to talk a little bit more about also some of the Milliman care guidelines. We are going to talk about some, I think it's more of the ethical rules for AI. Did I get that right, Chris?
Yeah.
Maybe we can also try to, align some of our thoughts around identity into some of those conversations.
Yeah, because I'm happy to weave that identity conversation in, because I think about the things that I want to do, and I think about my mission a lot. And, I have some parameters around my identity. Like, I identify non-binary when it comes to gender. Maybe that's a reflection of like some of the other things that I don't really
not wanting to choose.
But yeah, let's dive in. Where do you want to start?
Oh, I love that. You give me options. We get to talk about identity. What a great day. Let's go with the Milliman care guidelines. I think that would be a nice, what we're really going to just do is post a little video out there by one of my favorite videographers. And I like this. It's kind of like an old business if we're going into Robert's rules of running meetings. It just goes a click deeper. One of our fam, Denise, actually sent this over to me.
Denise Kinoff?
Yeah, after our last conversation, and it talks about how Milliman care guidelines, a lot of people don't know about them, but they're actually what most of the health plan policies are based on. So I stayed at a super high level last time, but I love this click deeper. And I think the explainer on this is just so cute and so clever, and it's a quick little watch. So not to spoil it, we can kind of roll the clip now, and at least people can hear some of the audio.
Hello, this is Dr. Eric Bricker, and thank you for watching A Healthcare Z. Today we're going to be discussing the Milliman Care Guidelines. So many of you are familiar with the large actuarial for Milliman, but we're going to specifically talk about the Milliman Care Guidelines. Okay, what is my point for you today? The point is that medical policy for most of America is created in conjunction with a single source, and that single source is Hearst. That single source, Hearst, also owns major news and media outlets. So does that create a conflict in terms of reporting on the Milliman Care Guidelines? Would the Houston Chronicle or the San Francisco Chronicle actually report on it? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Okay, is there disclosure when these media outlets report on healthcare? Do they disclose that they are owned by the same company that owns the rule book for over 2/3 of Americans? Okay, and then lastly, look, healthcare coverage and payment determination is already highly centralized. It's already highly centralized. In this world we live in today, where we talk about Medicare for all, we already have highly centralized rules. We already have it. I'm not here to debate Medicare for all or not. I'm just saying, in terms of the centralization of healthcare decision-making for 2/3 of American, 8 of the largest carriers, 1,900 hospitals, we already have it. And that's my point for today. Thank you for watching A Healthcare Z.
And we're back.
What did you think about that, Chris? Did you have you seen this instructor previously? I love some of his videos.
Yo, without Dr. Eric Bricker, we wouldn't be talking.
Really?
100%. Actually, within the previous company I worked for, he has a series of videos on healthcare finance, and the people in the company, we didn't know all the ins and outs and things like that, but he explains it so well and makes those concepts so accessible that we had a little book club, a video club, where we would watch an hour, there was a series of 30-minute to an hour-long videos, and yeah, Dr. Eric Bricker, he tells it like it is. You can always expect the honest truth from him. Yeah, I've been following him for years and love what he's like. Even watching this, I thought I knew what prior auth was and where it came from, but I didn't know about the centralization around how those rules are defined and things like that. He really uncovered that.
Well, as a health plan person recovering, I wish you had invited me to this book chat. I wish we knew each other then.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's no reason not to do it at some point in the future.
Sounds amazing. All right, so as we close out of that old business, let's move into a little bit of the new business. I loved the thoughts that you had around ethical AI policies. Can you just take us through briefly? And then I've got some additional things to add, even based on some text I was receiving last night.
Ooh, I want to hear about that. Let's be fresh with it. But really exciting that the American Psychological Association, APA, has put out guidelines for ethical guidance in for AI in the practice of health service psychology. I want to give a huge big thanks to Dr. Nikiforova for passing this along. She's actually one of the authors on this as well. But there's the content of the article, but there's also there's a driving force behind it. Like, I think that there's this versus mode that people have where they think like there's this camp of people that want ethical AI approaches and other people that want high performance AI. And there's someone, anybody in AI should be following Jasmia Henry, who this morning on LinkedIn, she made a great point about the fact that these shouldn't be things that are against each other. Because these ethical guidelines by the APA putting out these standards is taking a whole lot of people, like the field is, there's a large amount of discomfort around how do I sensibly approach these models and use these in care? How do I evaluate these things? Well, it provides, like, having an ethical framework and guideline provides some yes or no criteria, provides a way for people to hold this accountable. So it's actually a way to bring more people in to the use of these latest tools and tech. How does that hit with you? I'm looking at, yeah.
Well, okay, so I come at it maybe as like a recovering project manager, you know. And so in the triangle of project management, you have time, scope, and money, right? And so the three legs of the stool. And when we look at all things, like, there are always trade-offs being made. Like, you can kind of analogize this to a lot of the same points, right? So in the trade-off for time and efficiency, something else potentially comes down because you can't have the energy on both of the areas at the same time. So we often say, hey, if you want to go faster, you're often spending more money, you're putting more teams against it. And then that then impacts that budget. So I live in a world of trade-offs, Chris. You know, I'm always like flipping between tasks or family. We talked about this earlier, family, work, all the things, right? And so when you put energy in one place, as long as you're not like massively multitasking, which I'm also so guilty of, you're going to have some of these trade-offs. And so I think we're right now without standards living in a world where trade-offs are still being mediated, negotiated, and people are still like at different points on that daisy chain to tie it all together. One of the pieces that was so alarming for me yesterday, and I don't know if you all had seen this, this was like a late last night text that I got from a friend of mine. Illinois just introduced House Bill 1806 that was sent to the governor, and it essentially bans the use of AI for anything that is close to therapeutic uses. It's super broad in how it's written. We all agree we need guardrails, but this one feels like a tiny bit of that overreach, And so when I kind of look at this summary, it's called the Wellness and Oversight for Psychological Resources Act. Again, Melissa's not being, political, just pointing out like data points that are out there. They're establishing legal safeguards to ensure therapy and psychotherapy services in Illinois are provided only by qualified licensed professionals. Some of their key elements: a license requirement, AI regulation in therapy. AI use is restricted to administrative and supplementary support, scheduling, anonymized data analysis under a licensed professional supervision. AI cannot engage in therapeutic communication, make treatment decisions, or affect emotions. I don't know on that one, Chris. Like, how do you feel? I feel like that's just a little bit too much of an overreach.
I feel a very visceral negative reaction to that. Like, little bit, I don't know. How about
broad?
A lot of bit? Yeah, a lot of bit times 25. Because we saw the Harvard Business Review, and we can pull up the article again, but it asked people, it asked a broad swath of people what their use cases were for AI. And at the very top was therapy and companionship. Now, I'm not an advocate for going and just like willy-nilly, like thinking and having faith in what's coming out of like of an LLM that's not purpose built for that.
Correct. Blind faith bad, right? Make that a clip.
Blind faith very bad. But there's a clear indication that people are seeking help, conversations, and things like that. And what a bill like that does is block off the ability, the idea of experimentation. I like what the APA has done in contrast, because it acknowledges the key tenets were around transparency. They were around mitigating bias, health equity, and things like that. It says, hey, don't go on that full hype train, focus on these things, but also don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Like I think heavily, like I've mentioned him in the past too, Dr. David Cooper of the APA, and he's kind of on a mission to prevent things like this from happening, where people are just completely putting a block in front of this thing. And instead, like, let's focus on understanding how this stuff works. Like I brought up Empire of AI by Karen Howe a few episodes ago. Like, you have to understand the details on how these things are trained and built and things like that to make the right decisions for your patient. But that right decision doesn't mean just completely turning your nose at anything that's related to that technology.
Yeah, I think if we were going back to our bathtub analogy, this is so left. Like, this is so AI bad, right? It is on the left-hand side. And then I think you and I are both on that daisy chain way over on that right-hand side, being like, there is so much goodness in the AI, and we need to compromise and mediate this in a really different way. And so I think if our lobbyist friends are listening, you know, especially in the Illinois area, we would love to dissect this a little bit further. This should be on our bill tracking, right? As we think about the ethical use of AI and legitimate uses of AI, we need to be watching what is happening here, because this could set a really interesting precedent that I don't think either of us are in fans of.
Yeah, let's listen to and promote the honest innovators out there, the people that aren't selling snake oil. There are operators that you and I both know that have deployed systems, and there's a lot to celebrate in a lot of the work that's going on out there. So the more we promote that and keep that thinking alive and let people know, like, big example, Dr. Ziad Obermeyer. He's one of my key influences in seeking out racial bias in algorithms, but he's a machine learning expert. He wasn't doing that to ban AI and say don't use it entirely. What he did with that research was he said that by automating these decisions, by employing machine learning, we have a choice of either embedding the existing bias, embedding the economic biases and things like that led to the data being biased, or we can make those decisions, the technical decisions and the changes to mitigate that bias for the future. And that's the focus that we should be like. It shouldn't be completely banning a technology. It should rather be, how do we use this to mitigate the problems that we brought to the table and are reflected in the data.
Yeah, one of my heroes is Dr. Michael Abramoff, and I worked with him at Digital Diagnostics and formerly IDXDR, and they had worked on autonomous AI. I mean, Chris, this is so far right in this innovation land. What they were able to do was actually get an autonomous CPT code, 9229, and what this allowed, the algorithm, I think we've talked about this before, can actually sit in the shoes of the clinician, right? So clinicians could have been up in arms saying no, because like, this is autonomous AI. The machine is looking at images of the eye and basically saying yes, diabetic retinopathy, or no, diabetic retinopathy. It's making a clinical judgment call. But the way that they trained the algorithm, how they got through their FDA clearance, how they proved sensitivity and specificity, they did an excellent job of using AI really that right way. And so I just really admire how Michael thought about the space, how he was always researching for bias, creating that transparency, as much as the AI would allow, and really doing it in a way that was both safe and efficacious for patients.
Love to hear a story like that. And as you'd mentioned trade-offs earlier, a good trade-off to consider is, if you want to, like, for deeper use cases, things that are life-threatening or life or death matters versus other things that might involve harm. Like there's different thresholds of accuracy and performance that you want based on the type of decision you're making. So that takes you away from like throwing out AI completely because it doesn't work. It's not acceptable or accurate enough for those deepest use cases, but still gives like a range, a spectrum to make a smart decision about whether or not to employ it.
Yeah, I would just love to hear from our fam and others out there as this episode posts, and like others that are using AI in the right way. And we'd love to bring others on and, you know, keep teaching others how to do things like this, because I think learning through others and leveraging great precedents only increases the innovation here.
You got great examples. We will prop you up.
For sure.
All
sure.
Right,
Maybe moving to an example that we can learn from. Were you
Yes.
heading in that same direction?
I
All right.
was
The
queen of the
Woebot.
segue.
Yeah, think of the segue here, the Woebot experience, right? You know, being part of kind of that winding down, if you will. Chris, how did you, we just would love to have you start kind of with your thoughts.
Yes. So for those that don't know, I feel like Woebot is a good light for people. Like I just remember mentioning that I worked there at conferences and things like that, and people got really excited about the fact that they were extremely focused on research and documentation. Like you could get a really strong understanding. You could like the papers related to Woebot are still out there, and they're focused on running not just single arm trials, but multi-arm trials in a lot of cases. So all the lots of things stacked up in the right way. But the sad part about it is that we have this article that just came out from Mario Aguilar, very talented reporter, very deep researcher, and I think he's put out one of the most accurate assessments about what went wrong and why Woebot is no longer available. Now, the article is called "Why Woebot Shut Down," but it's not called "Why Woebot Health Shut Down." They're still operating. They're still moving forward, just under a different model and under a different domain. The key point that that was discussed in the article, and some good friends of mine, Dr. Trina Histon, Aubrey Schick, they contribute, who worked at the FDA, they contributed as well. But it was about that big regulatory burden that was ultimately extremely expensive, and kind of caused the company to pivot in a way that they're navigating around that. So it's to me, it came off as like a really deep study in a company that was focused on playing by the rules and doing things the right way and in the properly guided way, but lacked the transparency and direction from the FDA to be able to operate and do and continue doing the right things for patients. It's that classic case of the technology outpacing what the regulatory body was able to provide.
I know, 1.5 million users, Chris. I mean, that's incredible. And, you know, I think it had such a great reputation for clinical validity while, you know, and I think that's the thing right now that we see ChatGPT get its hand slapped for is, you know, the lack of clinical validity. And, you know, what is ChatGPT's algorithm trained on? Is it truly trained on clinical leadership in a way that we know that there's going to be no harm coming to patients? And so it felt like Woebot was trying to do AI in the right way. And so kind of sad to see this. And I hope it doesn't create any challenges for the industry at large, because I know that is definitely one of the things that investors spend a lot of time on when they think about something like this is, you know, with the surge in AI technology, is there going to be challenges for some of these earlier stage companies that may not have walked at the same pace, even if they spent a lot of that money in developing their AI?
Great time for my power to go out.
I saw that. I was just saying, it goes back to our scope, budget, time challenge, right? If we look at this pace of technology, Woebot might be that example of that technology outside the company outpacing technology inside the company, and maybe not having enough money to run alongside it.
Like technology from the outside outpace. I'm not sure. because with $2.12 and some bubble gum, you can make calls into the most advanced most advanced AI algorithms and things like that. So we experimented with more than 11 large language models, and oh, go ahead.
Did you have the time and dollars to run that all back through the FDA to get the same clearances that got on the first round of tech?
Yeah, see, the tech is so much more accessible than the regulatory part of it. There were 11 that we're experimenting with, and there was a paper that we even put out. I believe that we started working on that in 2023, and it just got published a little bit earlier. But it was comparing the use of generative approaches to the rote kind of decision tree model that we had in our conversational agent. So it would like the tech so accessible. There's so many players that are operating and experimenting, but by going down that pathway, it just the regulatory body wasn't necessarily ready. And the article also discussed this concept of a sham trial. A sham trial, or is that a tell me more?
Yeah, that was a tell me more, especially because I hit paywall, so I only got like the first fourth of the article.
Okay. Well, I'll screen share next time. Okay. Sorry about the paywall, but the long and skinny on a sham trial is. There's always this question, well, if I am moving a measure, like if there's a PHQ-9 score, like a measure of depression, if that measure moves by 4 points, the question is always compared to what? And if you're just looking at something that said, hey, we moved at 4 points, well, that could have been because the weather got better in that area that was affected, et cetera. You don't necessarily know what the cause of that is. A sham app is to say, hey, there's a control group that gets this fake version of the application that doesn't actually do the same stuff that the real version does. So you have a fake version and you have a real version, and then that compared to what becomes, well, the app itself performed this well, and the sham app performed this well. So the difference, like if the app itself moved the score by 4 points and the sham moved it by 3, then the difference is actually 1. But I think it's not like that's just not the way that's not what the comparison should actually be.
No, I'd rather it be the standard of care, right? Because you don't want people to get sham treatment in these situations.
Exactly. Yeah. The standard of care should have been should be the control in a lot of these scenarios. Like there are uses for sham apps for sure, but when we're talking about a system where either you get you get an application, or for a lot of people, they're waiting months and months before they're able to be seen by anyone. So the standard of care, like what's actually happening in the real world, is either application or this service or absolutely nothing. So I really think that this it takes a whole lot of effort and investment to develop this sham trial, but it's not measuring what's happening in the real world. In the real world, people have needs that are going unaddressed and festering, and it's just not being replaced by anything. And that's where that mission for radical access, that's a lot of what drives that in my heart.
I love that goal as well. Well, I think, unfortunately, we may see other Woebots fall victim to some of these similar challenges, and we'll keep an eye on that, because I do think they're interesting signals, maybe fires, for what we'll see in the rest of the industry.
I mean, we'll see that, but on the other side, though, there's the Woebots of the world that are extremely careful. Then there's the character.AIs that if you're talking to, you could I want to talk to a therapist on this application, and the app will tell you that, hi, I am a Stanford trained psychologist. Like you have, that's just a complete deception going on. But there's a little disclaimer on the bottom of the screen, so that makes it all okay, right? But
it totally does. You always look out for those disclaimers. That's the lawyer in me. What are you disclaiming?
So the path that they're taking is, as explained in the article, is to develop something that doesn't fall under that discretion and oversight. And I mean, that like we still need something. We need something to know that this is something that we can trust. Otherwise, big harms and things like that can result. But I don't think that the FDA has shown itself as the answer for that.
Yeah, I think there's a whole topic that we can unpack a little bit later.
Let's do it. Let's do it soon. I would go ahead.
Yeah, I would love to have some of our friends with connections to the FDA join us alongside of some of the regulators, because I think we've got some interesting ecosystem challenges facing us over the next couple of weeks and months.
Yeah, would love to. Like I've followed Dr. Marty McCary, the new commissioner for the FDA, for years, and would love to see they're very transparent now. They put out a weekly series where you can just watch him chatting with other people. Dr. Sanjula Jain, shout out to her. They're showing some more transparency, and I want to start doing some research and seeing like what the stance is on that digital health front.
Yeah, I love that. It's your innovator persona coming through, Chris, for sure.
Yes.
So my pop culture persona would love to make an appearance as well. How's that transition?
Welcome, pop culture, Melissa.
So Chris, I'll ask you the question first. What are you listening, reading, watching, looking at this last week?
What's been hitting lately? What has been hitting lately? I'm old school. I'm going to go really, really old school. Have you ever seen that show Bob's Burgers?
Yeah, not a fan, but keep going.
Okay. Well, Bob's Burgers, it's the before Bob's Burgers, there was this super old show called Home Movies, where it was a cartoon as well, but everything was like really squiggly and really sloppy. But everybody talks like they talk at this monotone. It's really dry and sarcastic. And I just picked that back up, and like after going through going through onboarding with the new insurance client and doing these various things in ad tech, sometimes you just need something that's kind of funny, kind of dry, but just calm, not too loud. And that's just been me lately. I've been watching the show Home Movies, and it's just more relaxing than the pace of other stuff I've been doing.
Yeah, so you know what's interesting about that? I'm kind of in the same boat, although I definitely do not love like cartoon shows. It's just not my thing. It took me forever to get into The Simpsons. I'll watch it begrudgingly. I think I was banned from it as a child. I'll have to ask my parents. I some days can get into Family Guy, but only in small doses. But something I really like.
My grandma banned Simpsons, by the way.
Yeah. You know, like Bart was just too out there for my parents.
Oh yeah, he said curse words.
Bad, Bart bad. This one really surprised me. I've been getting into Monarch on Apple TV. Did you see Monarch? So it's the story that takes place between the like Godzilla movies, but the part that interests me the most is the character has PTSD. So she ends up with these flashbacks to the moments where Godzilla hits San Francisco, and they call it G-Day. So I've been watching that for the PTSD moments.
Interesting. Okay, so that sounds like a really cool show, and I actually know somebody who's obsessed with Godzilla, and I'm kind of upset that he hasn't told me about this show.
Yeah, take a look. We'll talk about it more next time. And then you guys both know this because I've been joking around about it, but I have been diving deep into the holy freaking or effing airball TikToks that are out there. My family sends them to each other all the time, and I really want us to make one.
We got to we got some good pictures, some good stuff that we've been leading and driving. I've got some holy freaking airball ideas, honestly. So
I can't wait. We'd love to see our fams as well, and I hope these pop culture moments bring a little bit of levity. It's just interesting to see healthcare kind of hit the mainstream in these pop culture moments.
Yes, yeah, people are feeling it in all kinds of ways, and to see it like funnel through pop culture and talk about those sorts of things is always exciting.
Fantastic. Well, I think that may wrap us up for the week, Chris, unless you have any closing thoughts.
No, let's wrap her on up. Just really good to connect for another week. Hope you had a happy Independence Day for those catching us a
That
little
celebrate
bit
for all those who celebrate.
For those who feel independent these days.
As we think about that theme of identity, I just would love to know where everyone is in that bathtub curve of change. And then, just realize, if you're further on the daisy chain than you like, there's hope, right? You can still be an innovator. We're pulling for you. No pun intended.
That sounds like a fun LinkedIn poll. And I'm going to take a risk here and say, we can cut this out if need be, but come see us on Discord, and we'll have a link in the comments for the show.
Love it. Love it. Happy 4th for all who celebrate.
Happy 4th or 14th, whenever you're seeing this.